Most LSAT students sabotage their own scores in the final week. They panic, they cram, they convince themselves that if they just push harder, if they just squeeze in a few more practice tests, they'll magically boost their score. And then they show up on test day exhausted, stressed, and second-guessing themselves. But here's what nobody tells you. The final week before your LSAT isn't about learning more. It's about locking in what you already know and walking into test day with a clear, confident mind. And today, I'll show you exactly how to do that. I'll share the 3 biggest mistakes students make in the last week and how to avoid them, a strategy that will help you retain more while doing less, and the exact test day plan to keep you focused, calm, and ready to crush the LSAT. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally raised my score from a 152 to a 175. I've worked with thousands of students, people who were struggling at 140, people stuck in the 160s, and students trying to break 170. And one thing I can tell you with absolute certainty, what you do in these last few days can make or break your score. The biggest mistake I see is cramming at the last minute. I get it. You want to make the most of every second before test day. But let's think about this logically. Imagine you have a sponge. If it's completely dried out, it can absorb a ton of water. But if it's already soaking wet and you try to add more, nothing sticks. It just spills everywhere. That's your brain right now. If you've been studying for months, your brain is already full. Adding more at this stage doesn't help. It just overwhelms you. The solution? Instead of trying to cram in more information, spend the final days reinforcing what you already know. Review your mistake patterns. Look at your last 5 practice tests and pinpoint what types of questions tripped you up. Then do quick, focused drills. For example, if logical reasoning is your weak spot, don't do an entire section. Maybe just practice a few weekend questions to reinforce the patterns instead. And of course, don't take a full-length exam the day before your LSAT. Seriously, just don't. You'll burn yourself out. Now, one of my students, Alex, was scoring in the mid-160s and desperately wanted a 170. He thought to himself, if I just do another full practice test the night before, I'll be more prepared. So he did it. And the next day, he bombed. His brain was fried, and he underperformed compared to his last 5 practice tests. But my other student, Megan, took the opposite approach. She shut her books 2 days before the test and did nothing but a little light review. Her final score, 5 points higher than her practice average. Less is more in the final days. Now, the second big mistake is freaking out over one bad practice test. Imagine you take a test 2 days before your official LSAT and your score drops by 6 points. Cue the panic spiral. Oh my God, what if this happens on the real thing? Am I getting worse? Should I push my test back? Stop. One practice test means nothing. It's a single data point. It's noise. Think of it like weather versus climate. One rainy day doesn't mean the entire season is ruined. What matters is your trend. Look at the average of your last 5 practice tests. That is going to be the best predictor of your real LSAT score. One of my students, Brian, went into total meltdown mode when he scored a 157 on his final practice test before the official exam. I told him to chill and look at the real average, 163. He followed the plan, stuck to his strategies, and on test day, he got a 165. Trust your prep, not your last practice test. Now, the third big mistake is ignoring test day logistics. You could be the best test taker in the world, but if you mess up the basics on test day, none of it matters. Here's how people self-sabotage. Maybe they wake up late, skip breakfast, and rush to start the test in a panic. Or they forget to check their Wi-Fi before the LSAT and have technical issues. Or when they're taking it in person, they bring the wrong ID and aren't allowed in. All of these things, 100% preventable. So here is your test day checklist. If you're taking the LSAT remotely from home, test your Wi-Fi and your computer now, not the morning of. If you're taking it in person, set out your ID, wallet, and a clear water bottle the night before. Wake up at the same time you've been waking up for your practice test because your body needs to be in the same rhythm. And finally, have a pre-game rhythm. Light stretching, deep breaths, maybe even a short warm-up with a couple of LSAT questions to get your brain moving. Now, one of my students, Rachel, was stuck at a 163 and couldn't figure out why. She had the fundamentals down, but she kept running out of time. When we worked together, we diagnosed the real issue. She was overthinking the first passage in reading comp, leaving herself scrambling to solve the other ones. We shifted her pacing, tightened up her reading comp process, and bam, 171 on test day. If you want a customized day-by-day plan targeting your weak areas, check out my LSAT coaching programs. You could find out more at the link below and book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, here's the biggest mistake students make on LSAT test day. They walk in terrified. They think, this test determines my entire future. Let's instead reframe that. The LSAT is just another practice test. You've done this before. Format is the same. The questions are the same. The only difference is your mindset. And guess what? You can always retake it. Law schools only care about your highest score. If the June LSAT doesn't go perfectly, who cares? You have several other opportunities coming up this year alone. So just go in, execute, and trust in your prep. To make this even easier for you, I've put together a free, easy LSAT cheat sheet with my top strategies for timing, accuracy, and mindset. You can grab your copy, linked below this video, 100% free. Now, here are the last 3 things I want you to remember today. First, don't cram in the final days. Reinforce what you already know instead. 2, one bad practice test doesn't mean anything. Trust your trend, not one outlier. And finally, prepare for test day logistics. Don't let dumb mistakes cost you points. You've put in the work. Now is the time to trust yourself. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.